Hello everyone and welcome. This is a continuation video from the previous video where we had just started working on our DB Connect. So we've created our DB Connect constructor. We've created our onCreate method. So in the onCreate method, now we need to actually run the query. So when the onCreate method is called, it will actually run the query. So to do that, we just do SQLite database dot, and then we would choose execute SQL, which will execute this query that we've just built, just passing that query string in there. It doesn't like this auto increment. Let me just see why it doesn't like. Key expected. Okay, sorry, it's meant to be primary key there. Okay, so now in our onUpgrade method, all we have to do is just do SQLite and just execute the SQL and just say drop table. So we'll drop the table if a table already exists. If that table already exists, we want to drop it in case there's an upgrade to our database. I need to leave space in there and just pass on our onCreate. And then SQLite database. For now, don't really worry too much about it on upgrade. Just know that you need to get this done. So now we have successfully built these forceful methods that SQL Android Studio wanted us to build in order for us to have access to our database. So now this is where we're actually going to create our methods, which are going to help us to be able to connect to the database. Okay. Let me see here. I'm gonna, yeah, I've missed out something. I have missed out. Yes, I have missed out. Let me just go back here. I have written something wrong here, so bear with me. Let me just do it this way. Okay, so what I was missing this circle brackets there. Okay, so this is our onCreate and our onUpgrade methods created. Now, the next we need to do is we need to create a method which would add a first-time user to our database. I'm going to show you how to do that. So let's create a method. Public void, let's call the method add user, and then how we usually would create a method. But our method is going to take in our users class, because think about it, when we create it, we want to pass in, we're going to create a new object and we're going to pass the information that we get from that object inside the database. So we need to pass in that users class that we created earlier, the users, and then user. And then inside our users add user method, we need to create an SQLite database connection. So SQLite database DB equals this dot get writable. Because we're writing to the database, we're using the this dot get writable database. And then a new thing that you probably never heard of is content values. Now, content values hold key and value pairs. So what we're going to do is that we're going to, for our keys are going to be our columns and our values are going to be whatever the user inputs. So this is how we create content values. So content values, we're going to call it values as an object, new content values. And then the content values have some methods that comes along with it. So if I type in values dot, it gives me some clear, contains key, describe contents. The one we're going to use is put. This put requires us to enter a key and then a value. In this case, we are going to use our column names as the key, and then the value is what the user enters. So if the user enters the email address, the key is going to be the column, the key is going to be, let's say, the email address, the key will be email address, and then whatever the user enters, we'll put inside there, and then we'll send to the database. So in this case, what we're going to have is, I'm going to first start with the full name, comma, user dot get full name, because we're going to get the full name wherever we set the full name to. Values dot put, we're going to have email address, and then user dot get email address, because remember, whenever we're going to insert a user inside the database, we're going to use our user object to get that information. So I'm just going to make copies of this because it's going to be quite repeated. So we have full name, email address, we have password. So it's going to be user.getPassword. And then we have phone number. It's going to be user.phone number, get phone number. And then I believe we also have a values.put. What's the next field that we have is DOB, and then user.get DOB, and then values.put. And then we're passing in, what's the next column that we've left out is bio, and then user.get bio. Now, the reason why we're doing it this way so that we don't have to have repeated code. Now, the last thing we need to do is if we call this DB object, because this DB is what connects to the database, we say DB dot insert, because we're trying to insert. Now, the insert takes in 3 arguments. The first one is the table. So we know our table that we want to insert is DB user, DB table, which we stored as users. And then column null, column hat, we don't really use that. So I'll put in null for now. We're not going to be using that now. And then the next thing that it requests for is the values, because what he's doing is he's basically saying insert into table users where the full name is what the user don't get the full name, the email address is the user get email address, the password equals the get password. So it's just the content value just helps us to make our code much more simpler. So I'm just going to pass in values, and then that is how you create a method to add a user to the table. So now we've created our method called add users. We're going to now use the add users to now make it work. So in the next video, we are going to go to our register page, and then I'll show you how we can make it work.